Welcome to 2 Hours, No Traffic, a New York, Philadelphia sports podcast. We are your hosts, Spen and Philly Brandon, and this show is brought to you by Sideline Sports.
Yes, our friends who were crazy enough, naive enough to put us on television, despite probably their better judgment.
I wouldn't have done it, Brandon.
Most people didn't. We asked. They said no. But they did. But they agreed for whatever the reason.
Well, we're happy to be part of the Sideline Sports Network, and we got a lot to discuss, Brandon. Why don't you lead us in with our first topic of the night?
Alrighty. I'm all for talking Philadelphia. Obviously, last week we had the Philadelphia Extravaganza with Brandon Deeg, which is up on our Twitter and our YouTube. Brandon was an awesome guy. Has a classy name, by the way. Just phenomenal first name. But we'll get to the New York side of things this week. We kind of went Philly heavy. So we'll start off with your Nets staring down the barrel of a play-in game. But no one sounds too concerned. Nets fans, Durant, everyone seems pretty comfortable with coming from the 8 seed, 7 seed, whatever it may be, all the way up.
Yeah, it's not looking great for Brooklyn right now. So you said players and fans aren't concerned. Players aren't concerned, right? Kevin Durant's like, I will literally hoop it up with anybody as he turns it over. Nets are playing the Rockets right now, up 2 towards the end of the first quarter. But players, they don't sound worried for some reason. They think that they still have a shot. Fans are extremely worried. If you go on Nets Twitter, we have been broken emotionally pretty much the entire season with the fact that, the expectations for this team, they were a championship favorite before the year started, and everything that could go wrong for this organization has gone wrong this season. You had a guy in Kyrie who wasn't playing for the beginning of the season, then you make him a part-time player, now he's a full-time player. Really hard for someone to get a rhythm doing that. You had our best player, our leader, our god on the team, Kevin Durant, get hurt for a month in which we won no basketball. We won like very little basketball games out of the 15-20 we played. And then, of course, you had our third best player who was traded to your team in Philadelphia, Brandon.
Yeah.
So it's been a tough go. We're looking at probably being the 9th or the 10th seed right now. Unless we somehow get that 8th seed, that would be great. But not a lot of games left. I think we have 3 games left after tonight, or 2 games left, and the Nets are just. It's gonna look. The play-in games are gonna be tough for them, but I'm not very confident thinking that they can pull off an upset against a Miami or a Milwaukee in that first round.
I think I like you guys against Miami a lot better than I like you guys against Milwaukee. And I was talking about this with some of my buddies the other day. Like, when you watch Milwaukee play, to their credit, they play every single game like it is Game 7 of the finals. And I know a lot of teams preach that, but you don't see a lot of them actually do it. I challenge you to watch a Bucks game and not see one of their starters, or it's stars, mind you, full layout for a ball, dive into a crowd of traffic. Like, they just play with a different level of intensity than I've ever seen the Sixers play with. The Nets don't play with it that often. Most teams don't.
The Nets
so they're a tough team to get around.
The Nets never play with that intensity. They're just lucky that Kevin Durant can score 30 a night, Kyrie gets 25, and the rest of the team fills in where they're needed. But they are not. So the Nets had a really close game with the Bucks the other day, and you're right. There were 4 jump balls in that game. All went to Milwaukee, all because Milwaukee dove on the floor and grabbed the ball while it was in the Nets players' hands. Milwaukee is such a good hustle team that it occasionally borders on recklessness. I don't know if you felt this way when they played the Sixers, but a few questionable plays. Wesley Matthews basically lunges his body at Kevin Durant shooting a three-pointer. Their knees collide. That was a reckless play. And then I believe, I know it was on Bruce Brown. Oh, it was Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton got ejected for a very scary foul on Bruce Brown when Brown was on the fast break. So I respect the tenacity that the Bucks play with, but borders on recklessness occasionally.
It does, for sure. I think anytime you're playing at that size, in the speed of the NBA game, and you're truly going 100%, it's a dangerous game. Like, especially when you guys have guys like Bruce Brown said flying to the rim on a fast break or something. I mean, it's really hard to foul cleanly on the fast break. Most guys will just, you pull up at the free throw line, you realize you're not going to catch him, and you live to fight another day. That's not the Bucks' MO, which does get a little bit dangerous at times. But I'm watching them. I don't think it's malicious ever. I think it's just, like you said, out of control, maybe like reckless.
They do have Grayson Allen on the team, Brandon. Let's not forget.
That's true. Outside of Grayson Allen, the rest of the team I think is pretty clean. I don't want to see Milwaukee either.
I don't want to see them. Grayson Allen's tripping 2 or 3 guys in the postseason. It's coming.
Oh yeah, he steps his game in the postseason. He's like a goon in hockey. That's why he was brought to that team.
He is a goon. Bottom line, not confident about the Nets. Nothing is changing in the end of the regular season. We'll see if they can shock me in the postseason. Let's move on.
All right. I mean, we can't move too far on because there was a big move made that, was like, oh, we're going to see how it plays out. Maybe this might be the perfect environment for this person to thrive. He wasn't great in he was a toxic workplace environment and his other place of work.
All right. Are we talking about this BS? Are we talking about BS right now?
Yeah, so now he went to this magical rainbow land of acceptance, and he's still not quite ready to come to work, Spence. What am I missing here?
I have pretended that he doesn't exist for the better part of his tenure with Brooklyn so far. I pretend like this is, how some people believe in unicorns, but we all know they're not real. Ben Simmons is my unicorn. When he's able to actually practice, right? Forget about actually playing it. He hasn't practiced. He's never played with Kevin Durant ever. Maybe in an all-star, not in an all-star game. Yeah, nothing. So for me to believe that, he's our basketball Jesus and he's coming to save this franchise, it's just not happening. He's not Ray Allen in the movie He Got Game, and man, he's my unicorn right now. That's what it is. Yeah,
I mean, and right now that trade essentially shakes out to be, the James Harden that we got, which we'll get to in a little while. And for Drummond and Seth Curry, which I think it's lopsided a bit towards Philly, but again, and we'll circle back to James Harden later. I mean, Seth Curry has kind of been what you needed him to be, as has Drummond.
Drummond's been great. Drummond has been the best part of the trade because night in, night out, he gives us a double-double. He has a few kind of highlights each game. He's a smart player, Drummond. So I think right now Drummond has been the best. Curry is great. But I don't know if you know this, Brandon. The man doesn't have ankles. He is resting every other game because he has an ankle issue. You can't rest in the postseason. We can't have you play games 1 and 3 and sit out 2 and 4. We're gonna need Seth Curry every other night. So I love his game. He's great when he's out there. But as the old timers say, the best ability is availability. And Seth Curry has not met that availability standard for my liking.
To his credit, he did something very similar last year. He did play every game in the postseason for us. I don't know if he has some kind of a ramp-up schedule or if he and Steve Nash are working on it. But I know he played every game in the postseason and averaged 23 points a game last year in the postseason, mind you. So I don't worry about Seth when it comes to that time. But it's definitely got to be a little bit disheartening not to get, the prize of that whole trade up and running. And it leaves you to wonder. Obviously, part of it was us. Don't get me wrong. It was. But how much does Ben Simmons really want to play basketball? Because you had a whole year to get healthy. Why did you start rehabbing now?
The easy answer is no one foresaw these back issues coming to light at this point, right? Because all the reports that we read when we traded for Simmons was that he's healthy. Remember, when these guys get traded, they have to pass a physical.
Yeah.
So, assuming Ben Simmons passed that physical, right? Like he had to. So, I just look. Do I think he wants to play basketball? Eventually, yes. Do I think he was in a rush to play basketball when he got traded? Absolutely not. But I don't know anything about this back flare up. I just don't. So it could really be just awful luck. Like we waited so long for this guy, to start rehabbing, and the second he tried to get back in the gym, his back got hurt.
But the reason I'm wondering about this is part of me's thinking he took the first half of the season off, more so than the first half of the season off, and then tried to get into game shape relatively quickly. Like, do you think he was just in that poor of NBA shape that his ramp up caused an injury?
Probably, yeah. I mean, what other explanation do you have that he was in
I'm just
sick
saying it's.
shape?
I'm
There's
just
no
saying it's
if
really
you're
bad luck.
if it is a bad look. I mean, it is a bad look. Look, I don't know, man. I'm the farthest thing from an athlete, right? I am out of shape. I eat a lot of carbs, more so than I think athletes are supposed to eat. I don't work out every day. It's hard for me to sit here and tell you what the difference between an in shape professional athlete is and an NBA ready in shape professional athlete is. I don't even know what any type of level like that. So,
Apparently,
do I?
neither is Ben Simmons.
Yeah, do I think it's crazy? Look, I said I don't want to talk about this BS to
Yeah.
start, but this is where we're at, man. And by the way, you don't really know this because you're not as close to the Nets franchise as I am. But the Nets, since Sean Marks has joined, do have a history of not telling fans and media exactly
Oh,
what's going
yeah.
on. They're very, when Kevin Durant was hurt this year, he ended up sitting like a month and a half. It started with, oh, he's out 2 weeks. And then, and they downplayed the heck out of it. So I don't, when the Nets traded for Ben Simmons, there was all this optimism that he would play at the end of the season. But real Nets fans know it's all, nothing is real until it happens with the Nets. Same thing. We weren't trading James Harden. Steve Nash said it
Yeah.
in multiple
That
press
was one.
conferences.
That was the
So
most egregious one, in my
it's
opinion.
been egregious all season, but they don't the Nets organization does not treat the fans and media like we're intelligent. They kind of treat us like we're simpletons sometimes. It's a little bit frustrating.
Yep, and sometimes we are. But we'll get to the other half of the highway here. For my Sixers fans that are tuning in or watching tomorrow, you're watching us absolutely rout the Indiana Pacers right now. 13 made threes in the first half, 7 of which came from Tyrese Maxey. The kid is just an absolute animal. And honestly, at the perfect time, because I think Sixers fans as a whole were hoping for a tad more consistency out of the James Harden experience. Because we had a point guard who was kind of volatile. I don't say volatile, but could get it going and then cool off and get it going and cool off. And we brought in James Harden to kind of be that guy. Like, look, when Tobias can't get it going, if Maxey can't get it going, someone else can kind of shoulder the load with Embiid. And he's been that sometimes. Other times, you can see where he's forcing the ball to the rim, where he's forcing up shots. And I don't know if it's a realization that he has more talent around him than usual as far as depth goes or what, but there's games where he realizes that as a facilitator, he's a weapon. And other games where he thinks he's back in Houston again, except he's 31 now. And I really need facilitator Harden to stay. You're muted.
I'm very happy that you're basically getting the full James Harden experience now, because this is what I was trying to tell you when you traded for him. There are nights where he'll light it up and I see the box scores. I see him and Embiid having these dominant games. Embiid goes for 37 and 13. Harden will have 25 and 12 and an efficient game. But then you get the duds, man. You get the 17-point James Harden games and the 9 turnover James Harden games and the what are you doing on defense and offense James Harden games. It's been a lot of that, man. So, and I'm just glad that you're experiencing that now, because that's what I went through most of this year. And he did not have a lot of those efficient games because he didn't have Kyrie. He didn't have Joel Embiid with the Nets. He had Durant in the beginning, then Durant was gone, then he had Kyrie half the time. So, I mean, it's going to be different come the postseason, right? Embiid's going to show up. The question is, will James Harden be better, be worse, or be the same? I don't know.
Yeah, and my whole thing is like this team is built to withstand 17-point James Harden. 17-point James Harden is not going to lose the Sixers basketball games. What will hurt us is if 17-point James Harden doesn't realize, look, tonight I don't have it like that. Tonight I need to get Tobias involved. I need Maxey to shine. That's going to be the key, because we've had nights where he hasn't had it, and rather than do that, he'll take 3 guys to the rim, or he'll try to hit a step back jumper over a center. And it's like, look, I know you needed to do that for most of your career. I know in Houston you had to do that. I know most of your next 10, you didn't have KD, you didn't have Kyrie, you had to do that. But you don't have to do that here. I mean, you can kick it to Tobias is capable, Tyrese is capable, obviously Joel's capable. Even off the bench, guys like Shake is functional enough. Like, you have options. And there's nights where he remembers it and nights where he doesn't. But the nights where he doesn't, it's a completely different basketball team. And in the playoffs, we can't afford for him to do that. And Doc's not going to have the balls to take the ball out of his hands. If Tyrese Maxey's hot and James Harden isn't, Doc Rivers will not go away from him. He's just not that kind of coach.
If the season ended right now, who are you guys playing in the first round?
So right now, I love our setup. Right now, we're playing Chicago first round.
Ooh, they're in shambles. They are falling apart.
Yeah, Lonzo's not going to be back. Obviously, I mean, losing Vucevic early in the season hurts a ton. Like, he's the second best center in the East behind Joel Embiid. So you're not getting Chicago at their best, but I would welcome a first round against Chicago.
That would be nice. That would be nice. I like that for you guys. I think that would probably be the best matchup. So hypothetically, yeah.
If we bump up one and nothing changes, we could face Toronto at the 6th, and I'd be happy with either scenario. I like our odds against Toronto. I like our odds against Chicago. The only thing with Chicago that worries me is Zach LaVine can get hot. There's no one on Toronto that scares me quite the way Zach LaVine does, and DeMar DeRozan.
You see the Lonzo Ball news?
I saw he's not planning on coming back this year.
That's a big blow. He was really big part of their success in the beginning of the year. Without Lonzo, it moves a lot of guys around. You get more of
Colby White's a capable starter.
Who is? Colby White?
Colby White's capable.
He's all right, but he's no Lonzo.
No, he's not. But, I mean, he can stretch the floor. He's quick. He has a very similar game to Tyrese Maxey to a lesser extent.
Everyone has to be compared to Tyrese Maxey. This guy became a Philadelphia sensation overnight. It disgusts me.
You've seen him play basketball. It's fun. I mean, it is a joy to watch.
He's like Rocky Balboa. If Rocky Balboa were good at basketball,
he really is.
All
He's like
effort.
Real life Rocky.
All right. Hypothetically, let's say you guys somehow lose in the first or second round. Your head coach, Doc Rivers, was linked to potentially the Lakers job once Frank Vogel is fired in the offseason. I mean, what were your thoughts when reading that? You texted me. You thought it was clickbait. But where's your head at with all this Doc Rivers sort of hoopla that's coming out right now?
I still think it's clickbait. And it's not because I think Doc Rivers is on a pretty cool seat at the moment. But, the Sixers wouldn't even entertain the idea. I don't think Doc would entertain the idea. The town thinks that the city's on fire. We're the 4th seed in the East. And in the East, that's divided by about a game in the top 4. So things aren't falling apart. So it's not time to go fire the coach or anything like that. But I think you're right. I mean, if first round exit, he is for sure gone. Second round exit, I still think he's likely gone. I mean, we can't keep doing this. We're running out of Joel's prime. I know he's only 28, but he's a center. You don't know. We're really thin on James Harden's prime if he's even still in it. So, and the organization seems to think Sam Cassell is going to succeed Doc Rivers regardless of when it happens. So if you really think he's your guy and Doc can't get it done this year, you really can't afford to wait and keep doing these prove-it years.
First or second playoff round exit for your 76ers, do you guys pay James Harden the max in the offseason?
The max. I mean, here's the thing. If we want to keep him around, we're going to have to, the way the NBA works. If you're even above average, you're going to get just about the max.
Do you think he's worth it?
I think if we give him the max, he's worth it for 2 seasons tops.
Okay, I like it. All right, let's move on.
And then he's an anchor after that. But I don't know. Moving on to the other Philadelphia team that's making people scratch their heads a tad. Howie Roseman, either GM of the year or the worst GM in history, and it depends on who you ask in Philadelphia. Dude is a mastermind with the trades, leasing teams left and right, and he did it again to the Saints. So we traded, the 16 pick, which we were never really going to use anyway, for their pick at 18. So now we're picking twice in the first, and then we got picked up a first round pick next year, which is interesting because you only need 2 first-round picks next year if you're kind of sort of thinking maybe Jalen Hurts isn't the guy after all. It's an insurance policy after they said they didn't need one. So read into that how you will. But, the Saints absolutely got taken to the cleaners. I don't know what they were looking at. We still pick ahead of them. So if they're afraid of them losing their guy to us, that fear still exists. And Howie reloaded again for next year with multiple first-round picks. And the Saints are going to be garbage. So, that's looking at it to be a top 12 pick, easy. So it was a good day at the office for Howie.
All right, so you like the move is what you're telling me.
I'm a big fan of the move. We were never going to pick 3 times anyway. So I'd rather move it now than wait till draft night and kind of roll the dice on, what people are going to offer. If the Saints are willing to offer you a first next year, you take that every day of the week.
I'm with you. I totally understand that. I think Howie Roseman's a good GM. I think that he knows what he's doing. I think he's been unlucky with a few picks, what GMs aren't. I'm thinking of that receiver you guys took.
Oh, Jalen Reagor.
Yeah,
absolute disaster. Actually, no, take your pick. Jalen Reagor, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Matt Collins. Dude, the 3 out of 4 have been ass.
Yeah, well, like I said, he's a GM. GMs get unlucky sometimes. But I think for the most part, what he's done, look, giving up on Carson was the right move, essentially, and going
absolutely.
with Hurts. So, I can't fault the guy too much. Unfortunately, the Eagles are in one of the worst divisions in football, so it's hard for me to get stoked about anything that's, NFC East related. I got some Giants news in a second, but yeah, I mean, good for you guys. You guys sort of are in that rebuilding phase with Hurts. With those first 3-round draft picks in the first, are you focused more on the defensive side of the ball or the offensive side of the ball?
So originally, in the world where we took all 3 picks, and if you want to hear someone way more educated than me talk about this, just reference last week with Brendan. He's way more piped into these things than I am. So is Ryan. But I think they went, if they were going to go receiver and 2 defense, if we picked 3 times. The fact we forfeited that 3rd pick tells me that we're going to try and go, linebacker and corner. And if our guy's not there, maybe fall back and get Lindbaum, the center, out of Iowa. But I don't think we go receiver anymore.
Okay, I get that. Yeah, you want to talk about this Giants news quick?
If you have Giants news, sure. I haven't heard any.
The Giants were one of the teams that took a meeting with Malik Willis, the quarterback.
Really?
Does that mean the Giants are not sold on Daniel Jones as the future? Potentially, yes.
100% yes, right? I mean, this has been known.
No, I know, but I didn't.
Savior.
I didn't think they were going to meet with a rookie QB. Look, this is not a strong draft class. I think you have 2 guys that are projected to go in the first round. Malik Willis and
out of Pitt. The heck's his name? Peterman.
The guy who, yeah, he won the Heisman. No,
wait, no. Nathan Peterman's already been in the NFL and he's horrendous.
Not Peterman. What's the guy's name? He was. He's from Jersey. Actually,
me.
Look it up for me if you can. You're quicker with that.
I am.
Let's see. QB. This is a horrible radio/TV.
Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett. Definitely not Nathan Peterman.
Former Pitt quarterback.
I don't know about you, but when I think of Peterman, I think of the Elaine Seinfeld boss.
Oh, Mr. Peterman.
Mr. Peterman.
Dude, stories. Yes.
Legend.
He is phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I would love it if the Giants shocked the world and Joe Shane took a quarterback in this draft. That would be excellent. We'll see what happens. But look, we got Tyrod Taylor. I'm not worried about Daniel Jones losing his job relatively quickly. Just give it some time.
I'm still not going to get over the fact that we went on a 10-minute tangent about why Tyrod Taylor was not the correct move, and less than a week later, the Giants were you know what we need in this building right now is Tyrod Taylor.
But the quarterback I described to you was Tyrod Taylor. I just didn't want Tyrod Taylor specifically. I wanted a Tyrod Taylor-like quarterback.
Well, if you're still not sold on Tyrod Taylor, Blake Bortles is recently single again, so you can go get the boat and bring him aboard. If for
Blake
nothing
Bortles.
else, just make the Giants relevant in some capacity.
You ever see that video of the woman interviewing Blake Bortles?
Yes.
That's pretty funny.
It's funny, but it's so awkward, dude. Like at no point in that was I comfortable.
Classic Blake Bortles. He gives the best interviews.
I That's what I'm saying. Just bring him in. If people aren't going to care about the team, I don't even care if he doesn't start. Every post game interview, Blake Bortles.
I love it. And he's a guy who can play any position. He can play tight end, put him on defense, let him be a linebacker. He's got that type of body.
Put him on punt returns.
There you go.
I don't know.
I got
He's
nothing
getting
with
off
the
the rails.
Jets. I got nothing with the Jets. They're irrelevant to me right now. I got nothing with the Knicks. We always gloss over them. I think Thibodeau's going to stay in New York, and the Jets are in that weird rebuilding phase too. A lot of people have faith that Zach Wilson's going to be much better this year. I don't know. Let's wait to see. You know what would have helped having Tyreek Hill, but that didn't swing in the Jets' favor. So. It's like I've said this in the past on this show many times. It's not a great time to be a New York sports fan. We can look at
No.
baseball. You can talk to me about the Yankees' disappointing offseason and how Brian Cashman has been missing the boat for the last few years. Or we can get into the fact that the Mets are already starting to get hurt, and the season hasn't even started yet. Jacob deGrom sidelined for the first few weeks of the season. That absolutely sucks, but it's classic Mets.
Yep.
And then, if you want to talk about your Phillies for a hot second, hit me with it.
I bet you wish you guys never let Zach Wheeler walk away because that man has been a stud. On the
Has
other
he
side of
been
95.
has he been wheeling and dealing?
Yes, dude. He should have won the Cy Young last year. It's a crime that he did not, but that's another argument for another day. The Phillies are going to absolutely rake. It's going to be awesome. Who cares about defense anyway? It's boring. We got 6 guys that can probably hit 30 dingers, and that is all that Philadelphia cares about.
Ironically, like the NFC East in football is the worst team, but I think the NL East in baseball might be the best division, no?
I mean, probably as far as top to bottom, yeah. I mean, the Phillies are solid. The Mets, when healthy, are good. The Braves, obviously, are one of the best young teams in the
Nationals.
league. Bad year last year, but, could bounce back. So,
Other
no,
than the
it's
Marlins,
top
who
to
Derek
bottom. It's a
Jeter
good
gave up
division.
on. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I would think so. I mean, without thinking about the other divisions in baseball, I can't think of one that's stronger than the NL East. The Mets, the Braves, the Nationals, the Phillies are all supposed to be good this year, so we'll
And they
see.
were last year, too. It's been just for 2 or 3 years.
They were last year. Final sports news: the Masters is happening very soon, and we have Tiger Woods playing in it. Very excited for that. I'm probably gonna bet on him to win this tournament. Always bet on Tiger, even if he loses. Who cares? You do it because you have to do it. Because if you get it right, you feel like a genius. But I think that does it for this week's episode of 2 hours no traffic. Brought to you by Sideline Sports. I'm Spen Harris. He's Philly Brandon. Brandon, any final words for the listeners?
Nope. Just, go check out Sideline, check out our other podcast buddies. They put out better content than we do.
Yeah, or at least comparable content. All right, take it easy, guys.